Hello, in this video we're going to look at how to install third-party programs into the MaximaTech virtual machine. So some of these programs might help you out in some way. We'll look at one specific program that we'll use in certain situations, but called the InkScape. So as you can see here, I have the virtual machine open on top of my Windows desktop. We've talked about in previous videos how to install, access the virtual machine. So by default, the virtual machine comes with certain programs installed, pre-installed, such as Qt. There's a full list of programs here. I don't believe Valgrind is pre-installed, but so we can see in all applications, I believe the Firefox is pre-installed, for instance. But like Windows, we can install a lot of other programs into Linux. So in a lot of these programs you can just find online, similar to how you'd find Windows programs, although Kubuntu provides a sort of a software download tool which allows you to easily find and download pieces of software that work with this distribution of Linux. So if we come down here to the logo and come to the computer sign and go up to this software center and click on it, we can see this pop up. So when I started the video, I mentioned one of the things that is useful in the virtual machine especially, and we use it to modify the MaximaTech default widgets. So I'll make a separate video on this. There's also on our knowledge base, if we actually just pull up Firefox within the virtual machine, or you know what, I'll just open here. Scratch that because I don't think my username and ID is. So if I go to support.maximatech.com, and I go to product information, and in our knowledge base here, there in the UX designer, there's a article about here, modifying LinX or MaximaTech widgets. So as if you've watched the videos on getting started with Qt and our LinX platform, we have installed within Qt several MaximaTech specific widgets. So some of these might be gauge widgets or progress bar widgets, and the pictures we use are in a file format called SVG, or vector graphic format. So there's a lot of benefits to using vector graphics instead of just like a PNG or JPEG. But you can't use a program like Microsoft Paint, for instance, to modify vector graphics files. There's certain programs that are specific to modifying them. So in this knowledge base article, we've created a document here on how to modify and what the options are for modifying the MaximaTech widgets. So I won't review or go over all of this, as it's all listed in the document and should be pretty easy to follow. But in the document, it does recommend one of the options is using or modifying the SVG files with a program called InkScape. So I guess it does sort of tell you how you can install InkScape, but we'll go over that in video form here. So from this, discover, you can see there's different options here, and you can install, you know, if I go to Office, for instance, so here's some different, you know, Office tools that we can install. Get the size of this right. For instance, but in our case, we can use this search tool up here and say InkScape, and you'll notice here's InkScape. This is the one we want to install. So for me, it says remove because I already have it installed. But if you want to install it, you just simply click this install. In a previous video, we also talked about using a program called FileZilla, and I've made a video on how to use FileZilla on the Windows machine to easily move and transfer files on the display in a visual way. So FileZilla, for instance, has a LinX version. So we can type in FileZilla here, and you know, here's the LinX version. So if we wanted to install that on the virtual machine, we could do it here. And once those are installed, they'll appear in the applications list, and you'll be able to use them just like you would on your Windows machine. So it should be pretty self-explanatory. And just for reference, for the videos that or the widgets that I'm talking about for modification are opening here, these sort of widgets. So if we go down in this widget toolbox, you'll see these links, buttons, and gauges and indicators. These are all made by using SVG files. So in that, you can modify these files to look how you want them to look. So there's a separate video in the Qt video series about how to modify these and change how they look. So please go watch that video, but you may need InkScape, and we just found out how to download it. All right, thank you.